How do you show that you got what it takes?
It's my pleasure to welcome you to the Western Balkans Information and Media Literacy Conference 2021. I will share some of my thinking about where we are today. Thank you, Padraig, Gerald, and Radko for the good job they've done on organizing this conference. I look forward to sharing my thinking with you as a keynote speaker. I'm Paul Zurkowski. I was president of the Information Industry Association in the United States with offices in DC and a staff of up to 30 people. So you can expect we were involved across the globe. That is a disruptive force in the country over and over again as things change. And I was reading a book the other day who characterized printing as the most recent disruptive technology. When I first started with the association, I took a trip to England to specifically look up the 16th century collection of books relative to the first developments of books and how that disrupted people. Well, the same thing happened in the information business. I remember on one occasion I was talking to the president of a company in the main office right in front of the secretaries, and he shushed me when I mentioned information industry, and we went into his office to discuss what I wanted to talk about. He had a printing press right in the main office of his business, and that's where the work got done. And it was not a very modern press, but it had been purchased in the time of the First World War, and it had successfully operated through the Second World War, but it didn't survive the information business, the information revolution. So this was my introduction to what other authors have called the most recent revolutionary communication device, and that was printing, and that was books. And that's where I found the information industry by and large. Well, the amazing thing about my 20 years there was that nobody ever threatened to stop me. Nobody. I mean, I have worked for Kastenmeier just as I got into the bit. Well, I don't remember when the first time I worked for him, but I knew how the Congress worked. For example, it was in this interim period where I got word that the mail situation in the House of Representatives was getting worse. And the practice at that time, before my intervention, was to have each congressional office drop its mail on a shelf near the door. And a mailman would come by with a canvas bag on wheels, and he just dumped it in on top of the mail that was there before. And that was, in some cases, well, in our case, it was Louisiana, California, Texas. They were the neighboring offices, so that's the mail we got intermingled with. Because when they got to the post office with this canvas bag on wheels, they just dumped it on the conveyor belt. And that process just mixed it up some more. And we were busting our ass in the office, and everybody was. Every congressional office has the cardinal rule that the mail that comes in today is answered tomorrow. From an information literacy standpoint, networks aren't all on the plus side, apparently. People relying on future networks are also presenting us with huge risks. They allow government and business to invade and manipulate the lives of people more intimately than ever before. Relying on network news instead of real experience opens the door to deceit and delusion, and a noisy world where all voices are equal, it's harder than ever to tell what is true. In a larger sense, if decisions are made by everyone, who will edit the news? Where will day-to-day leadership come from? How will we form and sustain a vision beyond the short-term interests of the mob? That's a tough set of questions to give to the information literacy crowd. But since you're the head thereof now, you got to figure that out all by yourself.
I'm glad you just quoted, and we want to give credit. So that's Christopher Burns, an author from a yet-to-be-published book.
The Future of Networks, Thinking Together in a Flatter World.
So,
And the first paragraph of that page said, for the second time in human history, we are on the verge of a great leap forward in health, personal freedom, and productivity. And networks are the cause. Not because technology is amazing, which it is, but because the effect of networks is to replace organizations based on layers of power with flatter communities based on collective intelligence and a free flow of information. That makes all the difference. They're talking about networks making the distance between doubt and certainty shorter.
Ah.
I just made that up.
Of course you did.
Now
All right.
you can explain that
I know.
to your home office.
When I'm in Bosnia.
We're sitting here in Beltsville, Maryland, thinking about information literacy, networks, etc. 25,000 years ago, cavemen suddenly living longer, healthier, and more productive lives. With the help of a new generation of elders among them, families learned to think of themselves as part of a larger clan, raising food, hunting in packs, and trusting each other in good times and bad. After 2 million years of failed variations, Homo sapiens survived and became the new model of modern man. That's what you have to deal with today in information literacy. Information people are action people. That's why we dabble with the world information action. It's what happens when somebody gets smart the way the world works and is ahead of everybody else.
And you're talking about information and action literacy. The action literacy part.
That's too fine. They don't know what information action is. Well, I'm disappointing you guys by not being ready to talk about information literacy.
Yeah, so do you want to pass that on to me? I'll keep it going. Information literacy at Bosnia?
Yeah, no.
You're passing the torch to me?
I don't know if I passed the torch. I don't have a torch.
You want to pass flowers?
But that's, you see the connection to the things I've done in the past.
We've known each other 11 years now.
Yeah.
And we've had many meetings and 2 big trips to Istanbul and then to Bosnia. And so you're passing on the torch to me now. I'm ready. A handshake should be good enough.
Huh. Do you feel comfortable with it?
I gladly, I guess I get my face in here. gladly accept the torch from Paul Zurkowski to pass. Keep information literacy. You know what you said in one of your quotes is, well, in Istanbul, your quote was, information literacy is dead, long live information literacy. Do you remember that? You said that in your speech.
Yeah. We don't know how it's going to turn out in terms of the networks. Nobody has been interested enough to pursue it.
Well, another quote of yours is, whoever controls these switches of information controls the narrative. Do you remember that one?
I use the word narrative.
Oh, maybe you said something else. Okay.
World.
Controls the world. That's better.
Whoever controls the switches of information really is the owner and controller of the networks and the information flowing around the world.
What do you think of censorship?
Censorship raises the question of, is there an elite population that the world depends on to deal with governmental issues on behalf of the people? And from the silence I hear from the audience, doesn't sound like you think anybody has been worrying about that.
Yes.
There you can deal with that.
Okay, it's a big issue right now. It's about, well, a constitutional republic is where you have representatives, what you just described.
But the American model has increasingly been rejected.
And what's instead of?
A flatter world where more people are involved in the process so that they can correct it themselves.
More people have a say.
More people have a say.
And less of an elite.
Well, it's been going on for thousands of years where educated people have had an argument to make that they are better at deciding things for the people than the people are themselves.
From the beginning of civilization, wouldn't you say?
Well, not until there were graduate schools.
All right, stop.
That's the clue to doing what you're going to be doing.
Mr. Zurkowski passing on the torch to me as the head of the information literacy vision through him is saying I should not bite off more than I can chew. I agree. Very good advice. I will take your advice, sir.
What you need to do, first thing, is organize an advisory group.
Okay.
And these people ought to be on it.
Absolutely. And do you want Serap on that advisory committee from Istanbul, from
Sure.
Turkey?
These,
do you want Gerald
people. Yeah.
Kavanaugh?
That's what that community wants. And they're the leaders so far. Start with the ones that are highly regarded.
But anyway, you're saying advisory committee.
Be smart. Don't be dumb about how you retain your interest and power.
Well,
And that's not for you, not just for you, but for them.
yes, it's a flattened community. Everyone gets input.
That is just a small sample of what you can find out about our social structure and how people are treated around the world. One of the things that I found amazing in studying this field is that World War I was fought over the right of the intellectual community controlling a nation as opposed to the man in the street. It was hard to imagine the man in the street having enough information in the teens to be able to make decisions for other people. And the battle is still going on today over that question. It will have a lot of impact on the world if we get to some point where we can come to an agreement. The First World War was fought over, one of the things that was fought over was whether to move to the average citizen to be the controller of the government. And that debate is still going on. It still looks to the American experience with democracy as a guidebook. Women from the United States have played a large role, Mrs. Roosevelt. In the world of philosophy, at least, sentiment has been turning steadily against the idea of the intelligent upper class. Plato called them souls of gold, who were presumed to have the morality and vision to make the right choices for everyone. At the end of the 19th century, as Europe fell into new spasms of war, the failures of oligarchies were everywhere on display. But even then, the notion everyone participating in every decision was unimaginable. But the common man taking charge, there was no way they could access all the information they needed, was thought. These are just some of the questions that will certainly be raised again in the discussion of the automation factors that have been introduced into society. That means more work for you guys. That means holding to a high standard of what truth is and how to maintain it. Be sure to watch for Chris Burns' book on the New York bestseller list. It will be interesting to see how society accepts the frank discussion of all the details of where we are at today. Chardin said, "The day will come when, after harnessing space, the winds, the tides, gravitation, we shall harness the energies of love. And on that day, for the second time in the history of the world, human beings will have discovered fire."